Hi, Stu, up here on Dartmoor with Sam. It is a fine day to look at some Hilleberg yellow label tents. First one I'm going to show you today is the Hilleberg Niak. Absolute beauty, 2-person lightweight tent from the Swedish maestros. Got it here on my back, got an alright to okay place to pitch it, but the view's more important for the video than maybe the perfect pitch. I would probably like somewhere that's a bit flatter than this, maybe a bit lower down, but we need to have a nice view. So let's get to it. So this tent is a freestanding or semi-freestanding model. Nice and lightweight, light enough for one person, but it fits 2 people quite comfortably, except it's only got one entrance, so you have to be quite close to that person, I'd suggest. I'll pitch this in the way I like to pitch tents, so we'll get the pegs out first. I always like to put my knee down or something on the tent. It's pretty fine today, the weather, so we don't have to worry about it blowing away. Put the poles together. This comes with 2 DAC 9mm poles, and they're both the same length. When putting the poles together, make sure each section is correctly seated, so there's no gaps. Secure that bag into the side pocket there as well, you ain't going anywhere. Okay. So it's important that I make sure we have the door facing you guys. Hopefully you enjoy that view. The pegs you get with this are mini Y pegs, so they're similar to the pegs you get with the black label tents, but they're like a smaller, lightweight version. They're symmetrical in design, they've got plenty of security. They're really nice pegs. That's what I'm kind of getting at, I suppose. So being a dome tent, you just peg up the 4 corners, then we're going to put the poles in. As with all Hillebergs, it pitches as one, which is really nice. So the inner is already attached to the fly sheet. So in bad conditions, in rain and whatnot, it's the inner's going to stay relatively dry. Important to make sure the poles are seated in the ends properly. So this is part of Hilleberg's yellow label collection of tents, which are their 3-season models. So they do black, red, yellow and blue, and yellow is their kind of lightest weight 3-season options. So these are suitable for everything apart from winter. I mean, there's a big difference between like UK winter and Swedish winter. So for most of the time in the UK winters, I think this would be fine. If you're using it for extended periods with a lot of snow on the ground in very cold conditions, it might not be enough. We'll go into the reasons why it's great for kind of spring, summer, autumn use, and that's all down to the ventilation of this compared to a red and black label tent, which are proper winter tents that are not so suited for spring, summer use. This tent is going to, okay, important thing here, note, make sure that when you're pegging these out, you use the pegging ring. I've just pegged it through this loop, which is the wrong area. You've got to peg it for the pegging ring, because that then gives you the tension to be able to pull down on, like so. So that's it, up now. And we're going to put the guy lines out. This uses 2mm guys rather than 3mm, so black and red label tents use a heavier weight guy cord because those tents are going to be used in kind of more extreme windy conditions than the yellow label tents. So to save weight, Hilleberg use a 2mm cord here. It's still got a reflective thread in it, so you can see these in the dark, which is nice. When guying out a tent, any tent, always try and make sure the guy lines are as long as possible. So these have got real nice adjusters on them that you can lengthen super easy. You just kind of pull them apart with your fingers, and then we can make that nice and long. Probably a nice big rock here, I reckon, but there'll be an angle we can work it out at. Come on. There he is. Look at that booty. The reason you want the guy lines to be as long as possible is that creates the best angle for supporting the pole. If you have them too short, if we had this much shorter, it'd be pulling down here, which is going to put more tension in the wrong place on the pole. So out here, it's pulling in the right angle to support that tent. How those designers in Sweden intended. So, yellow label tents use a Curlon 1000, which is the lightest weight fly sheet fabric. Still a sil nylon, so it's a triple silicon coated nylon fabric. 20D ripstop fabric. It's got an 8 kilo tear strength. It's basically super strong for a tent this light. No one else is making a tent this lightweight with a fabric this strong. It's got a silicone coating on the inside once and 2 silicone coatings on the outside. The seams aren't taped. You can't heat tape silicone fabric, but they use a clever way of matching the seams together so that they're folded over 4 times, and then they use an expandable thread, so the cotton thread on this, when it gets wet, it swells up to block those holes. If you really wanted to, you could go around with something like a seam grip. You have to use a silicone-based product, and that will block those up completely. You could do that if you wanted. I've only had issues with a Hilleberg tent leaking a couple of times, and that's in prolonged heavy rain. You might get a drip come through the thread. It's not a fault of the fabric, it's just how they're made. So yellow label tents have this cutout around the fly sheet. Sam will show you as you go around, but it doesn't touch the ground all the way around the tent. So on a winter tent, a red or black label, this comes down much lower. On here, it's difficult to say because of where I've pitched it, but there's like a curve, a cutout, and that allows more air to flow through and up and over the inner to help reduce condensation. If you've used these sil nylon backpacking tents in the summer conditions, then they condensate really badly. So increased airflow is really important. Increased airflow in the winter is not ideal because it's going to make the tent feel cold. So that's why they're not as suited for kind of winter conditions. On the inner as well, you get a big mesh door. So the inner of this, on all yellow label tents, the door is like a no-seam mesh, which is great for breathability, but not great for keeping the heat in. So it's the kind of compromise is better suited for UK conditions, these yellow label tents. If you want a tent for use in the UK most of the time and aren't planning on doing extended winter trips in Scotland, then I would always recommend a yellow label tent. This is a great option as a really roomy one-man tent, or if you would with a close partner, or you've got like a biggish dog, then this is a great option too. Having the one porch makes it a bit neater, and the inner does feel a bit cozy with 2 people and 2 mats and sleeping bags in there, but being able to split that 1.7 between 2 people, it makes it super light, and for something so durable, it's going to last you a long time, it's ace. So Sam's now going to kind of take you around and show you some of the close-ups of the fabric and whatnot, and I'll give you a bit more information on the floor that they use on this tent as well. So that's it pitched, and we'll have a closer look. So here's that kind of mesh door we talked about, which lets a lot of air in and out of the tent. The rest of the tent is backed up. The rest of the inner, I should say, is backed up with a solid lightweight nylon. So this stops any condensation drips from the fly sheet dripping, and they'll run down the outside, but this big mesh door helps to let all of your warm, moist air out of the tent and then be taken away by the wind or the air that's going to hopefully blow in underneath that cutout in the fly sheet. The floor on this is a 50 denier PU coated nylon, which has got a 12,000 mil, I think it's 12,000 mil hydrostatic head on the floor of this, which is like super high for a lightweight backpacking tent. If we were to look at things from North America, some of the North American brands, they're like 2,500, some of them are as low as 1,200 mil on the floors. So this is really high hydrostatic head, waterproof floor, which makes it heavier than some of those other lightweight tents, but it's going to make it really durable. So it's going to last a long, long time, really robust, and you're going to be guaranteed you're going to be dry inside this even in like 5 years' time. You're going to be pretty confident the floor's not going to leak if you pitch it on a wet British moorland, which is pretty important. You get a couple of pockets inside here, which is cool. So you can have a pocket each on the inner, and then the bathtub or the ground sheet matches the cutouts for the outer, the fly, so they're kind of curved, which means that if it's windy, when you're lying down on a mat, you're not going to feel that cold wind as much, because the wind is going to blow into this kind of waterproof part here and then over the top of the tent, so it's going to help to alleviate it feeling too cold in here. Sam will be able to show you that in some close-ups in a sec, which is pretty nice. So the other nice thing about it being pitch inner first is we can, really wet conditions, if you want to keep the inner dry, this is all soaking wet, or it's really wet from condensation, you can just declip the inner tent. So we can just take that out, right, and pack that away separately to keep it dry, while this is packed away soaking wet. If you pack them away combined, you could end up pitching your tent in the evening and this will be full of water, because that water's got to go somewhere. So that's a nice feature to be able to do. You could also, if you were so inclined, just use it as a rain shelter, so get rid of the inner altogether, save some weight, and use it fly only. But be prepared to have lots of condensation on the inside if you want to do that. So what else is nice about this tent is the front door setup. You can roll it right back on both sides. So we can unclip this. Right open here. So there you have it, the Hilleberg Niak yellow label tent. Probably my pick of the kind of yellow label tents if I was going to be doing a long distance walk in the UK or Europe. This would probably be my choice because it's the good blend of durability and lightweightness. Really easy to pitch, stand up to some rough conditions without being completely overkill. So any questions at all you've got, ask them below in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. Thanks everyone.